Hi, and welcome to this week's Wu Wei Wisdom Life Lessons teaching. It's great to be back with you all. This week, we are talking all about relationship jealousy and insecurity and how to stop it. Now, jealousy and insecurity can profoundly impact how we think about ourselves, the people we love, and how we behave and the choices we make in our relationships. Ultimately, jealousy and insecurity can be very destructive in any kind of relationship. So whether that's a romantic partnership, friendships, or within a family dynamic. Well, in this teaching, you'll learn the real causes of jealousy and insecurity in relationships and how your childhood experiences and inner child are involved. You'll also discover the steps you need to take to retake control of your emotions and finally stop any jealousy and insecurity once and for all. Okay, David, so I know you work with a lot of couples and families and individuals on jealousy and insecurity issues, but how common is it amongst the people you work with?
Well, I think it's common because it gets confused, and this is why I'd like to start off with talking about when you say, I am jealous. It's very important in the Wu Wei model to define to yourself, are you talking about an emotional feeling? Because some people say, I'm always feel jealous. I feel jealous. This feeling of jealousy is overwhelming. Or is it a belief of jealousy? And then understanding what that belief is. And so this is why this subject is going to be very interesting for us to kind of deconstruct and take apart. But that would be the first thing that I would say to my clients. Are you coming here with saying, I get this emotional feeling, it's very overpowering, it's spoiling my relationship, as you say, with a couple or in a family, and it's taking over my life, or I think this. So get that clear in your mind. Normally, you are talking about a feeling.
So when you say thinking or belief, do you mean is the individual thinking thoughts or believing things which are fundamentally insecure or have their root in jealousy?
Exactly.
Compared to the physiological emotional feeling.
So this is where it gets confused, Alex, and that's why I wanted to make that definition at the beginning. Why people can't do with that is because they get kind of hooked into the emotion, and all they're talking about is a feeling, and they'll be happy to describe the feeling. They'll be talking about, I'm overwhelmed. It clouds my judgments. Every time it goes out, I get this feeling. Every time they look this way, I get this feeling. Every time she looks at somebody else, I get a feeling. So that's the most important thing I would say. If you take one thing away from this teaching, take that away. Think to yourself, are you just describing a feeling or is it a belief? Now, you know what I say in every video. I'm going to repeat it again. You are the creator of your emotions. You are not the victim. So if you're hung up on thinking, talking, relating to your feelings, you're not getting to the creation, to the core, to what it is you believe. And that's why a lot of people do a lot of work, read a lot of books, watch a lot of videos, do a lot of what they call inner work. But they're working very much on the surface emotional level. They're not getting to the core of the problem, which we try and encourage you to do through the golden thread.
And I would say, David, you can also extrapolate that one step further removed from the truth. So if the truth of the matter, the crux of the matter lies within the beliefs, the emotions are then become the distraction, the thing that we get preoccupied by. But then we then begin to label ourselves. So I'm just an insecure person. Exactly. I'm just a jealous person. Exactly. I'm a very insecure person in my relationships. I'm a very jealous person with my friendships. And so you're now, that becomes your story, but you're now even further away from the truth, which is the belief.
And you become the victim.
Yeah.
So you've created a feeling.
Yeah.
You've given it a name, jealousy or insecurity, And now you are the victim of that feeling. And you start, as you say, give yourself the identity. And you'll start saying to yourself, I'm really insecure. I'm really jealous. And what you're doing, as you just well explained, you're moving farther and farther and farther away from the real issue, the core belief. And that's always what I want to take you to. That's why I share in this video. Get to the core belief. What do you believe? Why do you believe that? And that's the issue. And that's why getting that opening gambit right in your mind, if you say, I'm jealous, are you just describing a feeling? If the answer is yes, your next question is, what is my thought? What is my belief that is creating this feeling that I choose to call jealousy? Now, personally, in the Wu Wei model, I would just be happier if you called it a red light, because the red light takes the power away from it. And then you can ask yourself, why am I creating a red light when she looks at another man? Why do I create a red light when my friends don't do this? Why do I create a red light when he does that? And that allows you to really focus down on the real issue that's going to make a change. This is where you'll make the life change. This is where you'll find your life lesson. This is where you can make an immediate effect in how you think, how you believe, how you act.
And so if we ask that question, what is the origin of this red light emotional feeling that I'm labeling as jealousy or insecurity, and it feels horrible? Is the fundamental belief always, I'm going to try and fast track this because I don't know whether this is possible, but is it always in self-doubt?
I would make it a little bit, if you want, when we're trying, because there's obviously many people watch our teachings, so I can't be precise for you, but I would go a little bit deeper than that. I would say the majority of the time it's about value, how you value yourself, your worth.
So doubting your own value.
That's right.
Questioning your own worth.
Questioning your worth and value.
Yeah.
So that is normally where it's held, and there will be an accompanying belief along the lines of someone else has to give me value, reassure me, validate me, not do anything that's going to question my value. So it's a very manipulative, would be the word that I would use, using your self-doubt about your value. So if I said to you, I don't want you looking at another man. Well, that's to do with me, isn't it? You can't look at another man. It's ridiculous. Because you would say, why? Well, when you look at another man, that really upsets me.
That makes me feel insecure.
Now, what I'm doing now is giving you a feeling. Yeah. See what I did in that moment? I'm now making you responsible for my emotions. Yeah. I haven't even talked about what I should be saying is, well, Alex, the truth is I am very insecure and I don't value myself. Yeah. So therefore, I need you to constantly value me. And when you look at someone else, Alex, it means that you're not valuing me. Yeah. Now, I wouldn't say that, would I? But that would be the truth. Something like that.
And we wouldn't say that because we would be too embarrassed to say it out loud.
Another emotional feeling.
Because we know fundamentally it's wrong or it's not appropriate or it's
imbalanced,
showing a weakness within ourselves.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not aligned. It's not aligned to your truth. There is somewhere in you why you wouldn't like, as we did that role play, that is something like you're thinking and believing, but you can't say it. Why can't you say it? Because there's something deep inside of you that I would call Shen. That would be my word for it. You might call it your intuition, your inner knowing, whatever you want to call it. But I think this is the description of Shen. Knows that you can't say that because it's fundamentally incorrect. It doesn't make sense. As Alex says, it weakens you. And imagine that Alex is my partner. Well, we're married. She is my partner. And if I said to you, Alex, I'm so insecure. You cannot look at another man. Even when a handsome man comes on television, we have to change the channel. Now I'm imposing onto you. I'm saying this is now going to affect our relationship because now I'm always watching who, if we go out for a meal, I'm watching who you're looking at. I'm seeing who you're talking to. Oh, you smiled at the waiter. Oh, you spent a bit too long there. And right away, what it's doing is putting a pressure on our relationship because Alex, as my wife, could not give me enough reassurance.
And that's the point.
It's like I'm an addict. She can't give me enough. What does she do? Have to lock herself in a darkened room? I mean, this is wrong thinking, and it goes down to a belief, not a feeling. And this is what I really want you to think about in this teaching. This is life-changing stuff. Rest assured, when you get this clear in your mind, and there will be a lot of resistance, and we'll come on to talk about the inner child, there'll be a lot of resistance, but get this clear in your mind. You do not want somebody else to give you value. Value is not a commodity. Somebody doesn't give you a bottle of value and you drink it. You already have value and worth. Why are you giving it away? Or as you say, doubting? This is something else that I don't understand. You doubt your own value. When a client says that to me, to be honest, it seems to me nonsensical. It doesn't make any sense. I can't make it make sense because what they're doing fundamentally in their belief system, they believe that value is given to them.
And we touched upon something similar in our relationships triggers teaching that we did a few episodes ago, and I will put a link to that in the show notes. But because this is not to excuse bad behavior from partners, friends, family members. So if, for example, our partner was kind of chatting up other women, other men, or our friends were intentionally excluding us or leaving us out or treating us more harshly compared to the rest of our group of friends, there's something wrong going on there. That's not to be excused. It's not the blame or the issue doesn't lie with us. But if we didn't hold the belief that there was something wrong with us, that we didn't value ourselves, that we didn't love ourselves, that we weren't good enough, then even if that behavior happened, it would not trigger the red light emotion of jealousy or insecurity, or it wouldn't trigger the belief because it's not there. So it wouldn't make us feel less of a person or believe we were less of a person, and we would be able to confront and talk it through and say, hold on a minute, something's not right here. And we would be able to have that conversation. We wouldn't go into an emotional meltdown of insecurity or jealousy.
That's right, Alex. It fundamentally would change your approach to any relationship, whether that's a partner, a family member, anything, because now you're not coming at it from a victim mode or victim statements. So again, using us as the example, if we went out to dinner and constantly through the dinner, your neck was at 90 degrees looking at someone else, I would ask you what's going on here.
Yeah.
Because I'm not looking for you to give me anything.
But you would be well within your right and entirely appropriate to raise it as an issue.
Exactly, and I would want to hear what you say. You know, what is it? Why is your neck at 90 degrees looking at someone else?
Yeah.
And that's what I'd be interested in. So that would be said not from the position of self-doubt, which I don't understand,
or you being the victim,
or me being
my
the victim.
Actions.
It's genuinely interested why you find that table or that person more interested in what we're talking about, what our relationship is. That's what I would want to know. And you might say, well, actually, I am more interested in him, and then we can sort out the problem.
Yeah. But there's a flow of communication
Well,
there, authentic communication.
That's why this is heavily connected to our series on relationships. Because as I say in the series, is all the time a relationship means communication. So you cannot communicate through a veil of emotions, because when you're speaking from an emotional basis, that communication will either come out angry, what the hell are you looking at that table for? Or, oh, is there something wrong with me? And so we swing here, we're back to the pendulum. We swing from one extreme to the pendulum to the other. And I want you to be in the center of that pendulum, so that you're connected to your truth, honesty, and integrity, your Shen. So you can ask the appropriate questions is in the appropriate way. And we sometimes get questions in the YouTube, which we really read every question and we try and answer them. And somebody wrote in a few weeks ago and saying, are you saying we shouldn't have emotions? And that's the last thing I'm saying. Emotions are powerful, natural, wonderful things. Even the negative emotions are wonderful. What I am saying, you do not build or base or use the foundation, the emotions as your foundation. Because if you do, you're missing the layer underneath. You're not building your life on what you think and believe. These emotions can come and go like the wind. And so if you build it on that, you're always in this. Insecure is quite a good word, because your foundations are insecure, because you're building them on your emotions.
And so to follow what you said then, we can't be the victim of our emotions unless we choose to be. No one can make us feel any way unless we allow it.
Yeah.
So we cannot say, therefore, or it'd be inappropriate to say when we're talking about emotional issues, he made me feel, she made me feel insecure or jealous.
That's right.
It's me making me feel insecure or jealous because of what I believe fundamentally about myself.
Yes. And that's the key teaching. That's the life lesson for this little series of relationships that we're doing. You'll hear me repeat it in every video. I don't think it's bad to repeat the real core teachings. Before you can have a relationship with anyone else, you have to have a relationship with yourself. That relationship has to be built on truth, honesty, and integrity in my teachings, or whatever values you think are important to you. Those are the values that I would think connects me to my Shen. So you have to have that relationship with yourself before you can have a really meaningful relationship with someone else. Because being a victim or being manipulative or trying to control other people or get things off other people, that is not a relationship. That is a manipulation. So with all of these, the main teaching, the life lesson is take time and think about what you believe, why you believe it, and then we can come on to the inner child. Because really the relationship is between you as the mature adult and the part of your mind that I label the inner child.
And so would it be appropriate to say their actions or behaviours made my inner child feel or made my inner child believe or trigger my inner child? Because is this all leading back to the impact on our inner child?
So let me be as precise as I can in the general terms, because everyone will be slightly different. What I'm saying is what they did goes against what my inner child would ideally want and their expectations.
Okay.
So going back to our example, my inner child would like you lovingly looking into my eyes at all times and putting me as number one in your life.
On a pedestal.
To the exclusion of everything and everyone else. Now, if you looked away and started to look at another man, my inner child now will immediately goes against that belief system and say, oh, why is she so interested in him? And then what the inner child does is immediately create a red light feeling, a very powerful red light feelings I would then call it jealousy. Then I would go down the road and say, I am jealous. I must be weak. There must be something wrong with me. Oh, I'm a jealous person. I can't let you look at anyone else. Then it's like a snowball gaining momentum, going down the road. And what we're always doing with our model is to go right to the first kind of problem, the first incident. I often think about it. If you think about you had a motor car at the top of a very steep hill and somebody took the handbrake off the car, you could hold that car with your little finger. Stand at the bottom of the hill when the car's coming down at 30 mile an hour, now try and stop it. And so this is what a lot of people do. They try and stop it when the energy, the emotions has built up momentum, instead of going right to the beginning and say, right, so what's the beginning part of this? And it is normally the part of the mind that we would label the inner child. Something is happening. They believe they require something. It's normally what they believe that they require is value and worth. They believe they need reassurance. They believe that that comes externally from others, and they need that like oxygen. And it is, some of my clients say, and I think it's a really good example. I think I'm going to start using this example. It's like you're addicted. It's like an addiction. You need it. You need that constant reassurance, that constant feeding of. And one of my clients said a week ago, it's like my ego. They didn't like the word the inner child. It's like my ego constantly needs feeding, and it's never enough. It's like an addiction. I think that's a good explanation.
And so this inner child dynamic, this needing for validation, would this apply to jealousy and insecurity in all relationships? So romantic relationships, if we're comparing ourselves with others, say others in our friendship group, and
definitely
having the red light feeling of jealousy and insecurity, or within families, comparing ourselves to our siblings.
So think about the friendship. How many times have you heard me talk on these teachings that when a child says, I wasn't in the in crowd, or I was bullied, or I was the odd one out, or I was sent to Coventry, or I wasn't in that friendship group. So there's the inner child. In your family, this is when you hear, oh, my parents preferred my brother, my sister. I was the odd one out. I never met their expectations. They passed the 11 plus. I didn't pass the 11 plus. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. And so it's very much about the part of your mind that I'm calling the inner child, having these very high expectations, normally talked about as being perfect. Perfect. I want to be perfect. And why they want to be perfect is because they want everybody else to put them on a pedestal, number one, treat them wonderfully, everything work out the way they want it. As I say, roses grow around the door, bunny rabbits jump in the field. This is the way everybody loves me, adores me, treats me specially. This is what that part of the mind we call the inner child is looking for, that constant reassurance, that constant external validation. When it doesn't get it, or it thinks it's not going to happen, or it could be taken away, what it does, it creates red light feelings.
And so is there a common origin for this need, this insatiable need for reassurance and validation in our childhood? Amongst your clients who you've worked with on this issue, does it come down to a commonality of experiences that these individuals have had in their childhood?
Yes, so I'm going to put the proviso on. I'm not saying if you're listening to this applies to you. As Alex is saying, common. Commonly, yes. Commonly two things, two extremes of the emotional pendulum. The one you would think I would hear the most of is those who are not reassured, who are not cared for, who are left out, who are going through a very dysfunctional childhood where their parents do not show love, appreciation, guidance, do not give them a hug, always criticizing them, always comparing them, always being judgmental, always down, finding fault. That's one extreme. Another extreme, which actually is very, very common, is brought up in a family where you are the special one, where you are the golden one, where parents live their lives through you, where they always have very, very high expectations. I'm working with a client now who's this very case. He said, I basically had a golden childhood. He said, everything I wanted, I asked, I got it immediately. But there was an unwritten rule. Nobody ever said this. Nobody ever sat down to me and said, well, if I give you this, then I expect that. But the unwritten rule was to meet my parents' expectations, to do what my parents thought was the best for me, to do well at school, to do well at sports, to do well in my exams, to get the right career. They're living their life vicariously through me. And even though now he's well past his 50s, his parents are still expecting this in what partner he chooses, how his children are brought up, their grandparents. Now they're expecting the same as him. So it's always about expectations, or the child has expectations on the other end of the pendulum, how the child believes parents should be, ideally, but they're not like that. So there's the emotional pendulum, and you have to come into the wu wei, into the center.
And in both of those extremes, I can see how as a child, we alter our behavior and our sense of value and worth is based in both instances on the feedback we get from others.
Exactly. It's based externally.
Yeah.
It's something that's given to us, or something that's not given to us, or something we have to earn, something we have to get or we don't get. And in the one case, if our parents are not giving us what we believe we deserve, then it's turned to, it must be me. On the opposite side, on the other side, when the parents are giving you this tremendous pressure, you can never reach their levels. Because if you do pass the exam with 80%, you're going to be wondering, well, they would have been happier if I passed it with 95%.
And there's the insecurity.
There's the insecurity.
Because in both instances, we are on very fragile, shaky ground in terms of if someone doesn't respond in the way we want, doesn't behave in the way we want, give us the feedback we want, whoa, it comes crashing down.
The part of your mind that we're calling the inner child will immediately create red light feelings.
Yeah. And that's what we're talking about.
So let me explain why one of the reasons, again, commonly, may not be for you, commonly why the inner child creates red light feelings, like all children, and think about your physical children, they create emotions to kind of get what they want. So if you've got children, how many times when you've said to them, bedtime, and they go, oh, Mom, oh, Dad, I'm just watching this, I'm just playing the game. Oh, it's not fair. See, they use their emotions. They're using their emotions to try and get you to capitulate, to give in, to roll over, and so they can have their own way. And that's exactly what most of the times the red light emotions that we're creating, such as jealousy, go back to our role play. You look at another man, oh dear, I'm feeling really bad. I want your attention.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know whether I'm enjoying this meal. Can we go? Oh, I've got a splitting headache. See, now I'm trying to use my emotions to get you back, instead of saying, Alex, why the hell are you looking at that guy?
Or do you think, David, though, that also, even if we have an awareness that actually we are being a little bit extreme in our thinking, because it's a habitual response, that we make the choice, it's easier just to let myself go down this familiar road of it, rattling my core beliefs, triggering them, and then experiencing insecurity, jealousy, and then performing, telling my partner or acting up or whatever, because actually it's easier to try and manipulate them to get me back into a steady state than it is for me to begin to try and do this inner work for myself.
That's exactly right. And as I said a few moments ago, you notice when we're doing this little mini series how we keep coming back to the same area, familiarity. This is familiar. I'm used to doing it. So I'm making a choice to do it, but I'm not being accountable or taking responsibility for doing it. And when I work, and it really is a great challenge to break through, what a client will normally say is what you said. Oh, it's easier. And I say, really? You're telling me this is easier? And immediately they correct themselves and say, well, no, of course it's not easier. What they are saying is familiar. I'm used to it. And then when we work through this, doing the golden thread and the self-inquiry, then they say, well, actually, I don't know another way. It's the only way I know. It's the only way I know. If you were looking at another man, I don't know how to approach you. I don't know how to say, what's going on,
And
Alex?
also, probably, I don't like confrontation.
Exactly. This is, see, we use
I don't want to confront and be honest about
Exactly.
what I'm
Exactly.
thinking here, how
Exactly.
this is affecting me.
Exactly.
I'd rather use my emotions to get my own way.
And that, again, is the difference between confronting. So confronting to me is when you speak from Shen, from your truth, from your honesty, from your integrity. Confrontation is when one of you is talking from your emotion. So there's a big difference for me between confronting something and being confrontational. And it's always about where you are placing your anchor, where you're grounding yourself. And these teachings and the life lesson on this about jealousy, it's grounding yourself in your own Shen. And then when something happens, some partner or somebody in your family does do something that's off the rails, you can then approach it in a very calm way. And you can say, I noticed that you always exclude me from these family dinners. Is there a reason for that? And then you'll hear the answer. The answer might be what you don't hear. They might say, well, actually, we don't like you. I don't know. But at least you'll know and you'll get the correct answer. Now, as Alex says, most people won't want to do that because they do not want to hear the answer and have that conversation. So they play this tap dance game of avoidance, creating jealousy, hoping that if the other people see them upset, they will now bend to what they want.
To my inner rules.
Exactly.
To my inner unspoken rules.
That's right. And it's like they have to mind read what I want. I'll use my emotions, and then they have to read what I want, and they have to change to what my inner child agrees. And this is why it gets so confusing. Thank goodness. And this is what allows us to do all the videos, because it's all the nuances of the confusion.
And that point we make about we absolutely want you to confront. So if there is inappropriate behavior going on with a partner, a friend, a family member, it's not about turning the problem in on ourselves and saying, well, oh, it's just my imagination. It's because I can't control my emotions. It's because I don't believe in myself. We're absolutely not saying that. But what we're saying is make sure you're on solid ground, that the emotional experience that you have is based on something that is actually a real red flag of something that's going on, not something based on a faulty belief within you.
That's such a great point, Alex, because someone in a victim mindset could be watching this and going, oh my God, he's blaming me as well. It's all my fault. And that's the last thing I'm doing. I'm saying, as Alex has just expressed, I'm going to double up what she said. If somebody is acting inappropriately in a relationship, in a family, in a friendship, at work, what I'm encouraging you to do is do not act from your emotions. Act from your Shen. Ground yourself in the truth and go and confront, not confrontational. I believe I do these videos confronting issues. This is what I mean by confronting. I sit here and say what I believe to be the truth. I'm quite happy in our Facebook group or in the comments under these teachings for you to say, I disagree with you, David. And then you write down why you disagree. So that's what I would call confronting. No anger, no upset, We then find the problem. And so that's using the example as a family member. You go to them and you say, hey, sis, I've noticed the last 3 family meetings you've organized, I haven't been invited. Is there a reason for that? No need to raise your voice. No need to get angry. No need to get red faced. No need to have sweaty palms. No need to have butterflies as in your stomach. And listen to what your sister has to say. She might give you a perfect reason. I don't know. But at least then you can enter into discussion and communication. And then you have a chance of building a relationship, because you can listen to your sister and you can address her points and she can listen to you, because the level of emotion is tuned right down and you can speak with truth, honesty and integrity. And that's what I call Shen. And that's what I call spirituality. And that's what I want you to be grounded in, your Shen.
And so to get to that position where we are more self-assured, where we're not looking for reassurance or validation from other people, we have to do this inner child work that we talk about on so many of our teachings. And that I'll put links in the show notes to some of our basic teachings on inner child work and inner child reparenting, in order to get to the root cause, the root point in our childhood that flicked the switch on our beliefs. So all of a sudden we started to doubt ourselves. We started to devalue ourselves. We started believing that we needed to be perfect to be good enough. We have to do that inner child work to reset things within ourselves.
No, that really is what I want to get across on this series of relationship issues. What you just said is why I prefer the label of the inner child, other than the ego or the emotional mind or the subconscious mind or something else. Some of my clients will call that part of the mind the devil, the demon, the devil within. This isn't a little child. It's not evil. It's not against you. It is misguided. It needs emotional education. And so the relationship, as I said at the beginning, and I said we'd come round to it, the relationship I would like you to think is the mature or the adult part of you, whatever you want to call it, is the parent. That inner voice, that inner critic, that chatting away, that unruliness is your spiritual child. So you're the spiritual parent, they're your spiritual child. And now you've got to get a relationship that works for yourself. Now, how do you do that? And you'll see in all the videos, communication. You listen to your inner child, and as Alex says, we have done numerous teaching. Perhaps have a look at the series. We did 3 videos called Reparenting Your Inner Child, where we go through steps on what you can do. But we finish where we started. How to have a successful relationship with someone else, you have to have a successful relationship with yourself, or you're going to be undermining every relationship, because you're going to be bringing in all of your emotional insecurities, worries, fears, whatever it is.
And David, that work, that inner work, is not something that could be done overnight, because, we have to accept that we've been carrying these beliefs, these misunderstandings for many decades. Is there an interim stage whereby we may be in a relationship with someone, our core beliefs are being triggered, we're experiencing the red light emotions of jealousy and insecurity, but we understand the origin of them, that it's for us to do the inner work? Is there an interim stage where somehow we can communicate to our partner, so whether it's relationship partner, family member, friend, that what's happened here has triggered me, say, and I'm trying to deal with it within myself, to just have some sort of form of communication? Because I think when we're in this interim stage, we're experiencing some of the emotions, the red light emotions, which will inevitably affect how we relate and behave. But we're trying our best to get our head around it, to sort out our inner world. but I'm mindful that it's still affecting the energy within us, hasn't shifted properly, and that energy is then affecting the relationship dynamic. Is there a kind of holding position in terms of how we communicate with the person involved in this?
Well, you've actually answered your own question
Okay.
because it's communication.
Okay.
So you communicate and you would be saying to your partner, your family member, and they already know this, I respond very emotionally. So they know that that's what you're doing. And so that strengthens a relationship. So it's always kind of good if you can communicate. That's what a relationship means, that you're acting from an emotional base. The real answer to your question is, I do not believe if you base yourself, I think you have a choice. You either base yourself, ground yourself, build your foundations, whatever you want to call it, in your inner child and emotions, or you base yourself and your foundations are based on Shen, on your spirituality, on your truth. And I think that makes things a lot quicker and more effective because that's something that you can do for yourself. It doesn't involve anyone else. So I'm a great believer, as you know, in meditation. And so what I mean by meditation is not sitting cross-legged, not emptying your mind. For me, meditation means the ability to focus your mind, to be focused, to be in control. I would say I would like everyone to meditate for 10 minutes, 15 minutes a day. And that just means sitting quietly. And if you're doing this work, what I would suggest you do is to review, particularly at the beginning, review when you created emotions the previous day, earlier in the day, if you're doing it at night, whatever. Just review and just say, I don't like the word trigger, but I'm going to use your word. That triggered an emotion. Now do the golden thread. And in the archives, we give you practice on how to do the golden thread. But it's basically you ask yourself the question, why? Why did I create an emotion? And then you go down the golden thread. Now, I think you'll find that if you do that regularly, and this is the kind of tug of war because the inner child part of your mind will not want to do this, but that's why I'm saying keep it small, 10, 15 minutes a day. We've got meditations on our sites you can follow, but it's much better if you do it yourself and just do a review. Now, some of you like writing a journal. That's a great way to do it. I created a red light feeling here yesterday. Why did I create the red light feeling? And I think you'll be genuinely surprised if you do that with enthusiasm, if you do that as a challenge, if you do it with real, true intention, you'll be surprised how quickly things can change.
And I just want to work that through a little bit because I can see that many people will get stuck on a certain point in this. So if I say, this morning I experienced a red light emotion. I created the red light emotion within me of jealousy or insecurity. Why did I?
Yes.
And then the first thing that will come to mind is because this happened or because that person said this to me.
Yes. Okay, next question. Why? What happened? Why is that against what I didn't want? What do I believe?
Or what did that make me think or believe?
What did I think? Yes, what did I believe?
So why what they did or why what happened, what did that make me think or believe? And that's where you find the answer. So it's not, of course, it's the external behavior of the person, the external situation that may be in the kind of chain of events here. But we have to dig deeper is why is it that what they said or did or what happened or didn't happen, what did that make me think and believe?
Think and believe, not feel.
Yeah.
Do not, once you start the golden thread, do not use the word feel again. You replace I feel with I think, I choose, I believe. I think, I choose, I believe. Once you start at the top, yesterday I created a red light feeling. Why did I create that red light feeling? Do not use feel again now. Then you go down. Then you'll find that you'll come down to one of the three lies. I'm not good enough. I can't cope. I'm unlovable or I'm unworthy. Same thing. One of those three lies. Then start the golden thread again. Why do I believe I'm not good enough? Don't use feel. Why do I believe I'm not good enough? And that's like following, as you said once, following a breadcrumb trail. And that's what the golden thread is. That's what it means. You're following the golden thread right down. And at the bottom of that golden thread, you'll find your inner child, scared, frightened, huddled in a corner, needing someone to come and sit with them and help them to get out of this situation. This is what they've always badly needed and wanted. And we have so many videos on how you do this. So look up Reparenting the Inner Child, look up the golden thread, or you could join our Facebook community. It's free. I think we've got 5,000 members talking about this all of the time. You can ask questions and other people will help you because we're all going through the same process. Remember, we're not saying you shouldn't have emotions. We're not saying emotions are wrong. I'm saying emotions are totally healthy. What I am saying, you cannot build your decisions in your life on your emotions because there's something underneath it that's creating it. You've got to get to that core, that basis. In Taoism, in the Tao Te Ching, it says, do you build your life on the rock or do you build it on sand? And if you build your life on the sand of your emotion, the tides come in and wash it all away. And you want to build it on the rock of your Shen, your spirituality.
And David, I know that would have been a nice end, but I just have one final question to ask you because I know it's been asked by several people. If their partner or if their friend or if their family member is the one who is experiencing the jealousy and insecurity for the reasons that we've just talked about at length, how do they deal with that? What is the authentic way for them to deal with that partner, that friend, that family member?
Well, strangely enough, Alex, the same applies. There's everything that we've been talking about applies, is to make sure that you have a strong relationship with yourself. You're at peace, you're at one. And then when the family member or your opposite partner is giving you their emotions, then you will be able to confront that situation without confrontation. You'll be able to have a calm talk to them over a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. You'll be able to work it through with them, but they will see that you're in a less judgmental, critical, and comparing position, and they're more likely to be able to explain to you what's going on in their life. The correct answer is we cannot change anyone else. But if they see you acting and answering questions and interested and giving them good answers, not based on your emotion, but answering them, then what the energy does in that situation, it changes and they have to change in some way. Now, they might say to you, surprisingly enough, well, how did you get to this place? What are you doing that I'm not doing? Or they may not. Every individual is different, but I will absolutely guarantee you, and it's very rare you hear me say that, if you can keep your wu-wei balance, they're more likely to keep theirs. If you spark off and say, you're always accusing me.
Or if you rush in to placate them.
Exactly.
Then you're playing the game that their inner child wants to play.
I think that's always worth saying when you're doing this work. It's good that you spot that because whenever I'm talking about one extreme, there is always the other extreme.
Yeah.
So if you go, okay, darling, I won't look at anybody else. Yes, you see, you've gone too far the other way. So it's the pendulum again.
So it's finding that wu-wei balance.
Finding the wu-wei, which means you have to be based on the rock of your Shen, of your truth, of what your self-sufficiency.
Brilliant. Thank you, David. Well, I hope you have enjoyed this teaching. As I said, in the show notes, I will put lots of links to related teachings that will help you with this subject as well. If you have enjoyed this teaching, please do let us know and perhaps share it with someone else who you think may also benefit. David works one-to-one with clients all over the world via Zoom video call on all of these kind of issues. And if you're interested in learning more about David's consultations, I will also put a link to learn more in the show notes as well. And finally, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We produce new teachings every week, and we would love to share your journey with you. Bye-bye.